Welcome to this presentation on Observer Infrastructure, the resource monitoring platform from Network Instruments. My name is Charles Thompson, and in today's presentation, I'm going to be taking you through a few of the recent enhancements which have been made to the Observer Infrastructure platform. First, we'll talk a little bit about some recent enhancements to flow technologies. Network Instruments has recently announced support for both Netflow and IPFIX technologies inside of the Observer Infrastructure platform. This means that organizations will now have visibility into the conversations and applications which are traversing across their infrastructure from the perspective of the infrastructure devices themselves, and will be able to correlate these new metrics with existing metrics inside of Observer Infrastructure. Additionally, Network Instruments has announced support for Appflow, which is a new technology from Citrix that allows organizations to get perspective inside of their application delivery controllers, specifically Citrix NetScalers, to be able to understand the URLs which are being accessed on the web servers behind the ADCs, and information about not only the performance, but also the transactions that are occurring within that ADC. Here's an example of a Netflow report where you can see Observer Infrastructure providing detail on the conversation itself with volume metrics in each direction of the conversation, and drill down capability into the conversations that can provide additional detail, such as the application protocol being used in the conversation. Next, an example report of a NetScaler environment leveraging Citrix Appflow technology, where you can see the application being monitored, the URLs being monitored for that application, transaction information, response time in each direction of the conversation, as well as drill downs into the request and response status codes which are occurring from the web servers behind the application delivery controller. And organizations can easily create custom reports inside of Observer Infrastructure that allow them, for example, to compare degradation which is occurring on one particular URL by looking at the number of reports of a, for example, 404 page not found error over time. Next, we'll talk a little bit about the unified communications enhancements which have been made to Observer Infrastructure. Cisco MediaNet Performance Monitoring is a suite of technologies that allows organizations to better understand the communication which is occurring across their Cisco converged IP infrastructures. Specifically, Cisco MediaNet Performance Monitoring allows organizations to extract metrics such as jitter, packet loss, and quality scoring from the infrastructure devices themselves on the voice and video transactions which are taking place across that converged IP environment. Cisco Endpoint Monitoring allows organizations to query the individual endpoints, for example, a Cisco phone, for information from the phone's perspective on the edge of the network as to the performance of the communication. You can see in this example report, the endpoint has the ability to report metrics such as jitter, latency, and the conceal ratio. Jitter and latency are fairly straightforward metrics. The conceal ratio is actually a metric calculated by the phone. UC endpoints often have the capability to attempt to conceal degradations in performance from the end user. And this metric allows organizations to understand what amount of concealment is taking place on the endpoint. This has been just a brief overview of a few of the recent enhancements to Observer Infrastructure. To learn more about Observer Infrastructure and the recent enhancements, please visit us, networkinstruments.com.